right, wrong one. There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. How are we?
It's windy out there. It must be rain in the area. It says
It
there's
is.
lightning all over the place. Doesn't look like it's here, but it's windy.
My hometown is under a tornado warning. So.
Really?
Checked on Mom,
I
checked
hope
on the
it's
dogs.
not near here.
It's nowhere near here, actually. All right, well, it is about 3:30, a little bit later than that, so we're going to check in on the world of sports with Tim Staudt, News 10 Sports Co-Director. First, I think the biggest story in all of sports, especially Big Ten and everything, is the fallout at Northwestern.
50 combined years on the air. Combined. I've never spent as much time talking about Northwestern football as the last 2 days. And listening to the radio, coming, going, Northwestern football has never got so much discussion as it's received in the last couple of days.
I mean, it's true. It is.
And it ain't because they're winning.
It is definitely not because they're winning.
It ain't because they're winning.
This is on the Northwestern University website from the school and the decision to relieve the head coach.
You know, when you got Zoom, why doesn't the guy just put out a Zoom thing and take all that away? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I mean, it's a different world.
Especially with such a good journalism media school that they have.
Although
there.
I don't think we've heard the last from any of those involved.
Oh, I don't
I
that
think
for a
this
second.
thing's got some traction moving forward.
So, in
Pat
case you-
Fitzgerald's got his lawyers. These guys got their lawyers. Now let the real games begin. And Fitzgerald's team may have lost 11 straight, but he wants to end the losing streak with an out-of-court settlement, if you get my drift.
I
I mean,
do.
they owe him something like $50 million. Now the question is, did he void his contract? We owe him nothing. Or you guys signed me. It was your call on this, so I'm willing to take all the cash. He's got like 5 years and 50-some million bucks left.
A lot.
It is, especially when you've gone 3-21 in the last 2 years. Here's my question: if they'd have gone 9-3 last year, would he still be the coach? If he'd have gone 8-4, would they still be the coach? They went 1-11 after going 2-10.
They got worse.
Well, they were 2-10 2 years ago. The year of the pandemic, Michigan State, when they went 2-5, State beat them in empty Spartan Stadium, but they still qualified for the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis, and they actually played Ohio State tough, but they got beat. Since then, they've gone 2-10 and 1-11. They won the game in Dublin last year against Nebraska to go 1-0, and let's just say things slid downhill since. I'm declaring a state of mourning in the football offices of Ohio State, Michigan State, and Indiana.
Because
Today.
they don't get to play Northwestern?
You got it. Can't pull one over on you.
Can't. So,
Of all the years you want them on the schedule, which is virtually every one,
Yeah.
those guys are looking at me and say, and by the way, how do you think they'd fare if they had Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back?
Yourself on the
The regular season this fall. Indiana, give them all they want. And I don't see how Michigan State could. If Michigan State lost to them, then you could put the whole thing over here as the bigger problem. But those four don't
Right.
play them. They open at Rutgers on September 2nd.
Don't you
And I'm just want to put something out to Rutgers. You guys have had a lot of trouble since you joined the Big Ten. If you don't win the opener to get to 1-0, you can bag it right there. You can just pack up the helmets, put the shoulder pads away, because if you can't beat these guys at home to open the season Labor Day weekend, given what's going on, it's just not going to happen. In fact, I would currently make Rutgers at least a 12.5-point favorite. And I'll bet you they've
And
never
it's
been
July.
they've never been a 12.5-point favorite. So
we do have a question.
does that work for you? I mean, is that the inside scoop information, or is that
Well-
just more smart aleck remarks?
A little bit of both. Do you want to just touch quickly on why Fitzgerald is gone from Northwestern? We do have a question. Why did he hire a lawyer?
Because the issue is settlement. I mean, it's one thing to fire the guy, but he's under contract for $50-some million for the next 5 years. The question becomes, can Northwestern claim that he voided the terms of that contract so we don't owe you anything? Or will they avoid litigation and say, hey, if we give you this, would you take that? And then that's his decision. Or do you fight this all the way through the courts, and that's going to get costly for everybody if it goes? I mean, it's for $50 million. I'm not just walking away empty-handed. I think a bigger question too is, what's his hiring potential moving forward? Is this a career ender collegially or no? Although when I look at the severity of what is reported relative to this hazing, there's no question that any other school interested in him is going to have to deal with the image of that moving forward. Now, the NFL, they could care. The Bears went after him. He turned the Bears down to stay at Northwestern. Why, I'll never know, but he did. But partly because he has a $50 million deal. Then if you can go 3-21 at Northwestern and they don't fire you for that, the only way you can get fired is if you go on with something off the field, and that's what happened.
Yep.
You can't make this stuff up, believe me.
So does the fact that Northwestern's a private school have anything?
Well, they don't have to go through the board of trustees. They got their own private. They can pretty much do whatever they want. This guy doesn't have to say anything. He can do anything he wants. I mean, they're privately owned. It's their, they don't have taxpayers and they don't have politicians to satisfy that a public school would. They basically, they're like Notre Dame. They run their own business. They abide by the NCAA rules like everybody else does, and the Big Ten rules. But they're not you can't FOIA request them.
Right. So this is more from Northwestern's website. Basically, Anthony, I'm not sure if that answered your question, but the reason he hired the lawyer is because of what happens now with his
He wants to know what kind of severance pay he's going to get.
Right.
And he wants it all. He's under contract. Yeah. He didn't quit. He's under contract. But I don't know what the terms of the contract are. Suppose the contract, like most of them, have a million different whereases about obeying NCAA rules, keeping your student, whatever it is. I mean, I don't know what is all listed there. And if you don't do, and most colleges, most contracts have all kinds of clauses in them so that it isn't just I show up and coach. I mean, there's other responses. They got to go to class, they got to graduate, all that. What his deal is, I don't know, because it's not public. You can't. If it was public, you'd FOIA request him, then you'd know. They don't even have to announce necessarily what they're going to pay him in severance. He could do that. But I'm going to guess I think it's going to be messy. That's a lot of money for somebody not doing anything.
And does this have anything to do with the were they getting a new football field?
Well, the 6 board people want the $800 million football stadium project put on hold till this is resolved. Well, it seems to me it was resolved today. They fired the coach and they got another one in there. Or they're going to have. It's going to be the defensive coordinator. The problem is when you fire a coach at this level of football in July, it's not only that you got an interim coach for the coming season, so there's no cohesion there, even though he's on the staff. But you're going to waste a recruiting year, and let me tell you, Northwestern cannot waste a recruiting year. The other thing is, if Fitzgerald is responsible for all this, where are the assistant coaches involved? Don't they have some sense of accountability as well?
It's not just one person who oversees the team activities.
Well, I mean, what does that president think should be the deal? I mean, how does, what I don't understand about all these things with all these schools, so many of these schools are retroactive and not proactive. The moment this thing sniffed its way in January or December, whatever it was, to the president's office, and he doesn't have to account to anybody. Why don't we, and their season's over, there's no bowl game, why isn't everybody in front of me? Let's get this handled now. That may not have saved Fitzgerald's job, but if they're going to get rid of him, if you get rid of him in January, that's before the February signing date. It gives you new spring practice with a new coach, because this is going to be just a cut and paste type of team they're putting together for the fall to get through the season. Assuming that his players don't rebel, and there's no question they're divided on those who think he should stay and those who think he should go.
It's true.
Go Cats, man.
All right.
At the end of the day, they're still wearing those purple uniforms.
They are. All right, we're going to talk really quickly, just touch on one more thing. Philip Zadina, after being let out of his contract with the Detroit Red Wings, signed a 1-year, $1.1 million deal with the San Jose Sharks, so that is where we will see him next year. And then this is pretty cool. Former Lugnut, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., made history last night. Not only did he just win the home run derby, but he became the first, alongside his dad, they are now the first father-son duo to win the home run derby. This is pretty cool. This is from the MLB Twitter.
Let's have a playoff and let the two go against each other and move the fences in for the old man. Then let's see who wins.
16 years apart, he won the home run derby.
Well, you know, he
after
played
his
for the
father.
Lugnuts.
I do.
He was here for half the season in 2017 with Bo Bichette. And the Blue Jays were the parent club then.
Right.
So they were here half a year, and you knew they were going to be gone. And they both quickly made it to the Blue Jays, where they still, and I think they're both in the All-Star game tonight.
They are. I think they're alternates, reserves, though. They're not starting.
Well, they'll be
from what I
playing.
remember. Pretty cool, though.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah,
For
he
him
hit
to-
70. You know, though, ESPN gets a lot of criticism, and I don't think it's fair. They ought to get more.
Hey, I'm the hockey
Explain
fan.
to me,
You know I know
did you
that.
watch the home run derby?
I didn't. I was asleep.
You didn't see one shot of it.
I did this morning.
Explain to me how you know if the ball went out of the park for a home run when the split screen shows the pitcher all you see is him swinging, and
Just
then
like
you
we did.
see the kids in the outfield running around. How do you know if it's a home run? In the early years of the home run derby, they had the shot was you could see the ball. I mean, is it a pop-up, a ground ball, or did he hit it 500 feet? The way they do it, you can't tell.
No.
So I bagged it. I bagged it. I went to the Home and Garden Network and learned how to get some fertilizer on the flowers. Made some use out of it.
There's a new show with Lil Jon on there that you should watch. I think it's right up your alley. We're gonna see. We'll pull this up too really quick. This is just more of. Is this what you're talking about?
No,
see
that's
the
not
picture.
the. That's not the. Well, that might be the. Yeah, is that the ESPN? That's what you saw.
Yeah.
Well, where to go?
Right. You see kids catching it.
I mean,
but how
where
do
to
you
go?
Unless you're there at T-Mobile Park.
The
in
only way you
Seattle.
can tell is the upper left corner where the digits change on the number there.
Right.
But that's not television.
Yeah, I'm feeling
So,
Not really fair. All right. Well, we're gonna stick with baseball just a little bit. Another player from Michigan State University taken today.
Brian Brecker is a catcher from Chicago. He went in the 13th round of the Tampa Bay Rays, and his coach thinks he's going to sign. So they're going to lose 3 key players to the Major League draft because they lost their shortstop yesterday, their first baseman. You know, they say you got to be strong up the middle. I mean, they lost. They're between Brock Vredenberg and Mitch Jebb, the shortstop, and now your catcher. Those 3. I mean, that's a third of the lineup. I mean, and those guys all could have come back, but. It's like anything else. If they're no good, you don't want them back because they won't get drafted. If they are good, they'll get drafted, and then you lose them. But they've got 3 that they're going to, likely lose for next spring. So, I mean, good for the players, bad for Michigan State.
All right. What is coming up? You and Freddie working on in there?
Pretty much the same thing. What is he cutting right now? What did I see?
I saw MSU baseball.
He's looking for Isaiah Stewart video because the Pistons just gave him 4 years and $64 million. And let me tell you, I think all those contracts for the Pistons should be tied to the number of wins. And then we'd see how hard they play.
Exactly. Sounds good to me. All right. Anything else coming up that you want to maybe tell everybody about?
It's like everything else. How much time are we going to get on the air at 6:20? What doesn't make it there, Fred will have at 11. I mean, the All-Star game's at, 8:15 on Fox?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the cool thing about this stuff is the announce team is from Waverly and Potterville.
Really?
Yeah. Joe Davis does Fox's play-by-play. He went to Potterville, played football in 2006. And he's the play-by-play guy. They did the World Series together, and John Smoltz went to Waverly, and he's doing the color.
I love that.
So eat your heart out, America. The other 49 states, the guys that call the baseball the World Series and the All-Star game. They play-by-play guys from Potterville, great guy, Joe Davis. He's on the radio with us all the time. And Fred's done stories with him. If you call him, he'll call you right back. And Smoltz is doing the color. So Waverly and Potterville, good
Looking
for them.
forward to that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's
It's
what
a
we have coming up.
broadcasting haven in this town.
It is, mostly because of this guy right here.
It's a broadcasting haven. I taught those 2 guys all they know.
You did?
Yeah. And between them, over the years, we've combined to make $10,010,000, the 3 of us combined. $10,010,000.
Between the 3 of you guys?
Between the 3 of
How
us
much of that was
combined.
yours?
You can figure that out. But I think it is kind of neat that those 2 guys.
That's very cool.
I mean, Joe Davis was the successor to Vin Scully on
That's
TV, and he
pretty impressive.
He's handled it well, and Fox has bumped him to everything else. He's only going to do about 90 Dodgers games this year because Fox has got him all over the place, and he likes that. He lives in Pasadena with his wife and kids, and I think John's still in Atlanta. And John doesn't, John's very outspoken against a lot of things going on in baseball. Well, you'll hear him tonight, okay? But they've worked the World Series at least 2 years. The All-Star game, they've done this before. So when you see him tonight, they're from mid-Michigan.
And thank this guy for it.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well, that's what we have coming up a little bit later on News 10 Sports at 6 and 11. Thanks for tuning in.